with the new manager, coach, especially the hitting coach?
I like him. Didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with him. The hitting coach, I've talked to Hyde a few times on the phone, but I like him. They both seem like positive. One energetic, one not so much. They seem like they complement each other very well. But I mean, I think coming into this, I was just kind of didn't want to pass judgment on anyone yet. I wanted to come in with a clean slate and just get to know these guys, get to spend a little bit of time with them, and so far so good. It's a good spot for me to be in. Haven't been here for several years and kind of seeing the regime change. So I'm excited to see what these guys have to bring.
What's your off-season training look like up to this point? Swinging, hitting?
It was a lot different this year.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I'm not getting any younger, and I think this past season, more than anything, just really taught me a lot about taking care of my body, what it looks like as I get older. I can't go in there and crush arms all the time or just load up and attack training the way I have in years past. So I've had to do some different things this offseason. I'm a little bit lighter, and everybody keeps telling me I look skinny, so I'm like I guess that's a compliment. But I feel good. I feel more ready this year than I did last year, and that's saying a lot because I felt like I was going to have a really good year last year going into spring training. So I'm ready to get it started. I'm ready to put last year behind us and start this season off. We're actually going down to Sarasota a little early, but I'm not going to tell you when yet.
Given that anxiousness on your part to get the season started, do you think it's a good thing for you to have fresh eyes, new manager, new GM, and all that?
I do. I'll be the first one to say that I'm going to miss Buck. I'm going to miss Dan. Both of those guys, I spent a lot of time with them. I got to know them really well. We had a lot of fun, a lot of good memories, but I am excited to see what this new staff brings. It's a completely different looking team, completely different dynamic going into this season, a lot younger, which I think, to me, it's exciting. You have a lot of guys that have been in the big leagues a little bit, not a whole lot, but they're still really very young in their careers. So, it's an open canvas, so to speak, and I'm excited to be, I guess, the dad or the grandfather or whatever you want to call it of the group. Uncle?
Yeah.
Uncle?
Trumbo's the granddad, right?
Yeah, he's definitely much more grumpy than I am.
Chris, how beneficial do you think analytics is going to be for you and for the rest of the team?
I think there's no denying the recent success that teams have had with, advanced analytics and having a staff that handles all that. For me, it would be foolish not to at least explore it. I think especially after last year and everything that we went through, there definitely need to be some changes. I think that there needs to be a good balance. It can't be all one way or all the other. I think that there is some good information out there. There are a lot of people that have different insights, different perspective, and I'm looking forward to working with those people, meeting those people, and kind of seeing what they have to offer.
What was the process for you mentally this winter to kind of turn the page from last season?
It was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be honest with you. I think really just the last month of the season, it was such a grind. It was such a roller coaster ride for me, really not knowing what to expect going into the off season. But I really, once the season ended, just kind of took a deep breath and let it go. There was so much that went on away from baseball, having to deal with just failure on a constant basis, unmet expectations, and this is all personally. And I think by the time the season ended, I was just so tired that I was ready to turn the page. So, and I had a lot of work to do, so there wasn't a whole lot of time for me to sit back and feel sorry for myself. I wanted to explore a lot of options as far as my offense was concerned, my nutrition and training, and so I felt like the clock was ticking.
What's a successful season for you?
A successful season for me?
What would be success in 2019? What would you say would be successful?
Anything above what I did last year would, I guess, be considered successful. But for me, it's getting back to the player that I was in 2013, in 2012, in 2015, in years that I was productive, even in 16. Just being a threat in the lineup, being a guy that produces runs, that his teammates can count on to be there on both sides of the baseball. That, for me, is where I'm going to kind of define a successful season. I've never been a guy to throw out a lot of numbers. You guys know that. But to continue down this path that I've been on the last couple of years and make no adjustment and make no strides in a different direction, it just seems, I mean, I don't want to do it anymore. And I don't want to go through another season like I had last year again. And I don't think that'll happen. I really don't. So we'll see here shortly, I guess.
Chris, you've never been one to blame anybody about your problems, but your agent had some choice comments about the shift and how discriminatory it is. And, you know, Harper was having a rough year at the time. How much has the shift played into the mentality of what you've had going on?
Well, it's definitely taken a toll on me. I mean, I can think all the way back to 2011, maybe even 2010, at times where I was shifted, and it wasn't obviously as drastic as it is now, but for me, it's killed me as far as my average is concerned. A lot of times, the low line drives that are hitting to right center field. The biggest thing for me is how do you adapt without changing who you are as a hitter, but also still doing something to be competitive. And I mean, I felt like I tried to bunt a number of times last year, and I had pitchers laying out, making ridiculous plays, and I'm just like, I don't know what it's going to look like moving forward. But I mean, the right-handed hitters are starting to see it like the left-handed hitters are. It's a little bit tougher with obviously the first baseman being over there, but it's definitely changed the game, and I think it's taken away from the game. I really do. I understand the numbers, I understand analytics, and trying to do whatever you can to beat the other team, but it's just not baseball to me. And I don't feel like it ever will be, no matter how they try to modify it. But if they're asking for votes to change it back to the way it was, I mean, my vote is out there.
Hey, Chris, when you go through as a team and as an individual struggles, is FanFest, is it more difficult or is it a pickup? How's the experience?
For me, it's been a pickup. I think a lot of times it's easy to sit back and focus on the, 3 to 5% that are negative, that are hateful and disrespectful, and really lump everybody in with that. But I can't tell you how many people have walked up to me and just encouraged me, praised me for the way that I carried myself, or the way that we handled ourselves as a team going through that, and just have told me how excited they are for this year. And that to me is, I mean, it's life-giving. Coming back here after everything that went on last year, all the emotions tied to it, and not really knowing what it was going to look like, it's been exciting for me, and it's made me want to get down to Sarasota even more.
Chris, you cited a couple seasons like 13 and 15 that were so big for you. Do you remain confident that something like that is still doable for you or close to it?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that was my goal after 15. I wanted to lead the big leagues in home runs. That was a personal goal for me that year, but moving forward, I wanted to continue to be a threat at the plate as a power hitter. And I don't feel physically like I've lost a step. I don't feel like I've lost any ability. I think if anything, I have a lot more perspective than I had a couple of years ago. But no, I still feel like I'm at the top of my game. I still feel like I can compete with anybody, and I'm looking forward to a chance to kind of redeem that.
So what closes that gap on the stat sheet for you, since you said you still feel like everything's there?
I think for me, a lot of it was really the mentality, and I know that's kind of vague, but I was searching for a certain feeling, something that I just had done all my life. It was kind of a feel that I'd had my whole life, that I, for some reason, had lost touch with it over the past couple of years, and I was trying to get it back sometimes during the season, sometimes in the off season. And like I said earlier, I made a lot of changes this offseason. I saw a lot of different people, people that I hadn't seen in a decade, but that knew me at a younger age when I was in the Rangers minor league system. And I feel like it just kind of opened me up. And I think going through last season, going through that stretch of just failure day in and day out, really got me to the point where it was like, okay, now we need to exhaust all options and really take a step back and make an adjustment. So, like I said, I don't feel like I'm an old man. I don't feel like I've lost a step, maybe down the first baseline, but other than that, man, honestly, I feel great.
So if you had to put a percentage on which it is, on, mental versus physical, would you be able to say it's 50-50?
Well, I think, are you talking about last year or right now, or, I mean?
The past couple seasons.
I think a lot of what happened last year started out as physical, and I think I let that creep in way too much and way too often. I've played through injuries before. I've played full seasons with injuries and still been able to produce. I feel like that's kind of our role as big league players. It's kind of something that you accept. Nobody's going to feel 100% every day, and it did get to a point last year where I was just mentally, it was too much for me to handle, and I wasn't opening up or sharing any of that with anybody. I was trying to keep it all in and be professional, and it just, I mean, it took its toll on me, and I think it was very obvious and very easy to see.
You talk about how much you want to be the leader now of this team. How important is it to be productive in order to be able to do that? Is it harder to take on that role if you're struggling like you were, say, last season?
I think it definitely plays into it. I mean, you can't be a leader and just not go out there and show up. I mean, it's more than just going out there, putting on the uniform and standing at first base or wherever on the field. It's more than just looking the part. I think a lot of it, people want to see the fruits of your labor. And for me, I think if anything, going through last year, and really I felt like I was one of the leaders in this clubhouse for several years. Obviously not as outspoken as Jonesy, but I definitely felt like I was part of that group. And I think last year it actually gave me an ability to kind of relate to guys on a different level. And there was a sense of pride for me to continue to go through that and not just give up or give in or try to place blame on anybody else. I mean, I think that there was honor in what I did, and I hope that those guys appreciated it, and hopefully it'll help us kind of get to the next phase in our relationship as far as me being the leader of the clubhouse.
But when you saw a team lose 115 games and all those guys, all those other veterans are gone, how much of that season, how much of the losing of last season do you put on your own shoulders? Well,
I mean, there's no doubt that I in no way, fulfilled my responsibility or my duties as far as production. But at the end of the day, the two best seasons I've had statistically, we didn't even sniff the playoffs. So it just goes to show you that no one man can carry a team. As hot as Manny Machado was at times last year, we were still losing games. As well as Alex threw the ball down the stretch, we were still losing. And you can't put it on one person. It's not fair, and it's just not right. But that doesn't mean that you can just neglect responsibility or not accept accountability. But to be honest with you, it just didn't feel real going through it. I was just kind of numb to it. Maybe it was because I had so much going on personally. Maybe it was because we had won here for so long, and I had never seen a season like that. But I don't want guys to think this is what it looks like, because that, in my mind, that was a fluke. That's not going to happen again.